Suddenly, everybody is talking about deep fakes. It's all connected to AI, the ability of AI to manipulate images or maybe even create new images that look like it's real, but it's not. So that's what the whole talk about deep fakes are. There are people talking about photographic evidence in courts. There are people who talk about all kinds of things that can be settled, or even about individuals. Somebody can take my picture or and then create whatever they want about it, and that will lead other people to make assumptions about who I am, the kind of person I am, right? So this is a whole thing about deep fakes, and suddenly it's come into the limelight because of artificial intelligence. Question: why don't we have the same question about text? Why is it that suddenly ChatGPT can throw up all kinds of text and it can be fake, but it's not so urgent? Of course, there are people talking about it, but it's not so urgent as the question of images. Somewhere in our minds, we think that images are a true representation of what reality is, and hence we can trust the credibility of images more than the credibility of text. I think in the field of art, this was put away a long time ago with the development of abstract art. Until a point in the history of art, perhaps, there was all depictions of real scenes. By the way, this is only since the Renaissance period. Before that, we had depictions of Jesus Christ, of God, about various, in India, for example, various acts that God had, about the Bhagavad Gita, about the chariot. None of these pictures are representational. Nobody has seen the chariot and taken a faithful representation of it, nor have they seen God sitting in the heaven and reaching out to human beings like Michelangelo's famous painting on Sistine Chapel. So they were not necessarily representational. Representational art came in to focus at the time of the Renaissance, when we started drawing things that we or painting things that we could actually see. But very soon that didn't continue. It did work for a while. Today, perhaps that field is in something called hyper realistic art, where we have paintings that look like photographs. It's amazingly realistic. But that's still art. And meanwhile, non representational art or abstract art came into being and began to focus on other things. So it still makes me wonder, why do we think that a visual representation of something is somewhat true and a textual representation of something is not true? Perhaps it's because we depend on our own eyes to see things. Photographs, for example, are used in passports just to determine whether you are who you claim to be. Does that sound funny to you? In fact, I remember a joke that I was told that if you actually resemble the face in your passport photograph, then you are not fit to travel. So, any photographer who has some experience or amateur photographer will tell you the importance of a good photograph depends on the makeup the model wears, the clothes she wears, the smile on her face, the angle of photography, the light on the photograph, the background against which the photograph is made. So many things. And of course, all of this without taking into account the camera itself, the lens, how it impacts the settings of the camera, all of that, how it impacts. So, with so many variables that can change, why do we still think that photographs are representational? Perhaps it's about time that we did away with passport photographs and we moved into biometrics, which is what is happening around the world, or perhaps even more sophisticated ways of discussing or discovering a person's identity, if not biometrics, something else. So we're on the way. But I think we depend far too much on our visual senses to give us an idea of reality. Now, here's an interesting question. What if the world that you can see through your eyes and recorded in your brain What if that is a deep fake? What if the world is not what it seems to us to be? Sounds counterintuitive, but there's a lot of evidence. And as a cognitive scientist, I am fascinated by the way in which we create this deep fake called reality. Not only do we have the deep fake, but what is the definition of a deep fake? A deep fake is a fake that pretends to be real, a fake that pretends to be original. That is what deep fake is, and that is exactly what the world is as we perceive it. So it's fun to discover how we create this deep fake. And if we acknowledge that it is a deep fake, then it gives us a lot of freedom because we can now deep fake or we can do many, many things. There is no compulsion to stay true to the fake that you project to the world or to the images that you have of people. And this leads to my approach to psychology and counseling, which is to discover that look, the world you think is real is not really real. And that means that you can reframe it, you can change it, you can change the world to look in a different way. And that's the core. Of course, it's nothing radically new. This is what cognitive behavior therapy was also supposed to be. But what makes it fun is the assumptions behind it of what is real and what is not. So I leave you to think about this and hope you enjoyed the video.